make sure that they had control, and surely they did. So we had this vote, but I think the motivation behind this is that when things don't go well, the opposition can go, and blame the administration. But here it is, the contrivance was with both parties all these years to plan for this and support it, and if they really wanted to end the war, they could. The Democrats finally win the election in 2006. And it was a mandate, and the Republican gets thrown out. What's the first act that Pelosi does? There was a supplemental bill that had a bill of ours in, and we had gotten it put in, and the bill said, you shouldn't even need a bill like this. It said, you can't go to war with Iran without getting approval from Congress, something. And she removed it. She removed it deliberately. And then the astounding thing is they asked her why, and she said the leadership in Israel asked her to. I mean, that is how amazing it is that was in the newspaper, and that was in the Washington Post, that she was asked by AIPAC and others not to do that. And and yet, we continue this process over and over again. But now things aren't going well, and it's still politicized. So, Scott McClellan, too bad he didn't see the light a little sooner, But he's seeing the light, and it can't hurt our side because at least, even though he's saying everything we've known for a long time, people have lied and cheated and contrived and fudged the records and everything else. And in some ways, I think they gave every single person in the CIA a black eye. And I'm not very happy with the CIA. I don't think that much of that organization. But I know some people who have been in it, and they're sincere, good Americans, and that they get painted. They take that and they change this information and feed it to the Congress and said, oh, yeah. So now the lies are coming out. And the Democrats are playing on this. And, and to me, I think it's because this is what they hold in store. But they're not going to prosecute or do anything. This is just all demagoguery. If they were serious, they would immediately remove the funding or do something, to end the war. But it's just a gamesmanship, how to get one up on the opposition to get reelected and throw one group out versus the other. And the American people saying, oh boy, this is the most important election in our lifetime. And if we have Obama instead of McCain or McCain instead of Obama, the world's coming to an end. Well, unfortunately, the country's going to come to an end unless we do something. And now, of course, that's where the good news is. A lot is being done. This year has been fantastic. I mean, it is true, and I've said this very many times to so many of our rallies, that many have signs, and they said that I've removed their apathy. And they've been apathetic, they didn't care, and we've gotten them excited, and finally they get interested in politics. And I tell them, I said, well, you have removed my skepticism, because I was a skeptic. For years, 2, 3, 4 years, strong supporters would come, and I figured they were just as dizzy as anybody. Oh, yeah, you have to run for president. Yeah, sure, I need to run for president. Like that's a serious job, running for president. But actually, they worked on me, and finally, on the final decision was made because I felt so strongly about the war and foreign policy. I thought that was the issue, and figured if I did go out there, maybe it could do some good. So I made that decision to run, and yet today. I come away not being a skeptic. I am so much more encouraged for 2 reasons. The work that Bumper and Future Freedom Foundation and the other good libertarian organization have done now for 20 years, you are much further along than I ever dreamed. There are more people out there. The remnant is big. And we can't count the remnant. We know that. But it is big. And it's gigantic. And not only that, we had the young people joining in droves. And it's so delightful to see people coming into the office now. I have a lot of visitors, and mostly young people bringing their parents. And I always ask a kid, I says, all right, now who's the true believer? Who started it? Is it you or is it you? You know, is it the parent or the kid? It's so often it's the teenager, not even a voting age. And they're totally excited. And you think, oh, yeah, maybe he saw some musical and liked this video, and it's just all superficial stuff. It isn't. They can answer the questions. They know about, they said, they'll bring up the subject of monetary policy all the time. They'll say, how is it that the people in Washington think that they can just print money all the time and not have, its value go down? And where do they get this authority to have the Federal Reserve? They go on, and really, we get their attention. We get their attention on foreign policy. This week, I had 4 students come in, and they just happen to be Jewish, which always delights me also, because, we stereotype too easy and figure that AIPAC is the only group that can speak for our relationship with Israel. And yet, just think of all our many mentors, in this movement. They happen to have that same faith and religious belief. So I have learned not to do this. One time I had, probably about 16 Jewish students in, and very conservative Jewish group. And they were very delightful, and I spent about 45 minutes with them and laid it on the line, exactly what our policy would be: friendship and trade, but no support and no weapons, and the whole works. And it pleased me so much, because it's the first time I ever talked to a group of students in my office that when we got up to leave, they applauded. And a few students in your office don't get up and applaud. So this foreign policy, it's open, it's failing, so people are looking at this. And we do reach the minorities. Hispanics and the blacks, they don't like this war. They always suffer more. And I talk to these young people and talk about the possible coming of the draft. And even today, what happened today? Has anybody had enough time to watch the markets today? Well, I think Lou was talking, his speech was on the value of the dollar related to foreign policy. And today was a pretty good example. So they opened up this morning, and I think gold was down as usual, $5 or so, and the dollar was up a little bit, and the markets pre-opening was sort of flat. And then some bad statistics come out, the market went down. But then there was an announcement by a high official in Israel that flat out said it looks like it's going to be necessary for us to bomb Iran. Very, very clear, hostile declaration, and that started it off. The dollar reversed, was down significantly. Gold was up $25. The market, last time I looked, was down 300 points. And foreign policy. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but in the debates, Tim Russert was in charge of one of the debates, and he sort of made an announcement at the beginning. And he said, foreign policy has been the top issue, but now it has changed. They finally figured out there was a recession going on. I remember in Michigan, I was the one, they were always saying none of the Republicans could say that the economy was weak, because that would be Republican fault, because it's the administration. So he said, now it's the economy, it's not foreign policy that is the important issue. But later on, I got my chance to sort of dig at him a little bit. I said, you can't talk about the economy, without talking about foreign policy. I mean, they're connected. And that, of course, reminded me of what motivated me to get involved in politics, and that was the guns and butters of the 60s, me being drafted in 1962, spending eventually 5 years in the Air Force, active duty and on reserve duty. But guns and butter, the introduction of the Medicaid system, massive increase in expenditures here at home, and never holding back on the military-industrial complex and say, don't sweat it, we can handle it. And, that was what led to the breakdown of Bretton Woods, and that led to stagflation, a serious decade that we have. And We're doing the same thing again, but probably worse. Yeah, not as many of our men are being killed, but we have so many tragic injuries and sickness, hundreds of thousands. Our veterans' hospitals are flooded, and so many people waiting for care. Suicide rates higher than ever. Our troops spread around the world. The morale is down, and now we have to pay for guns and butter. But this time, we're much poorer. We are in big debt. Bigger debt than ever before. What we owe foreigners, our national debt, the entitlement obligation. And this is one of the issues that I could get young people to look at carefully. You're getting stuck with a war, and you're getting stuck with a lot of debt and a bad economy. And no matter where I went on the campuses, I said, we can get ourselves out of this.